Hey, welcome back to the channel. My name is Keith and I'm sure glad you stopped by today. In today's video, we're going to take a look at a 2003 Ford F-150. This is my father-in-law's vehicle. He gave me a call earlier this week and said he was having some issues getting it started. So come along with me as I take a trip over to his place and see if we can get it fixed for him. So in today's video, working on a 2003 Ford F-150 pickup truck. This is my father-in-law's vehicle. The issue is that it won't start for him. He's having an issue getting it started. I was talking to him about the history of what happened. He went to the store the other day, got there fine, but when he was going to come home, it wouldn't start. And he started to mess with the terminals on the battery to see if he can get a secure connection on it. He did that and he was able to get home. But the next day, it wouldn't start for him, and he was doing some things with the battery terminals and still was having issues. Another thing, you see the battery is out of the vehicle right now. He took it to a local auto parts store for them to test the battery out. They tested it out and said the battery is good. So I just arrived over here, and that's where this story picks up. So I'm gonna just do some checks and see if we can figure out what's going on with the vehicle. So one thing I'm gonna do, when you're doing troubleshooting and diagnostics like this, be careful of assumptions you make. Be careful of assumptions that you make, because you can go around chasing rabbits real quick on assumptions. So I know the history of the battery, but I'm going to do my own test just to make me feel good about the battery and where we are. All right, we're back on the vehicle now. I'm going to use my multimeter to check the voltage on this battery. A fully charged battery should give you a voltage of about 12.6, and I want to check that. So I have my multimeter tool here. Gonna set this down right here. I'm gonna just check the voltage on this battery. I'm gonna connect to the positive side and the negative side, and I'm reading 12.7 volts. So that's a good initial check. That battery does look like it's fully charged at 12.7 volts. Now let's move on to the next test. Next test we're going to do is what's called a load test. Here's my load tester right here. When my father-in-law took this to the auto parts store, I'm assuming they did a similar test. They have a more sophisticated load tester, but what all this test does, it's one thing for your battery to put out a static voltage, but what does it do when it's under a load? Can it handle the load of the vehicle? And that's what this is going to help represent for us. So let's connect this, turn our switch, and do a load test and see what it comes back with. So we got our load tester hooked up, and just like we saw with the multimeter, this load tester is saying that when it comes to just resting voltage, this battery is putting out good. That needle is in the green region, so that's good. So now I'm gonna flick this switch down here, and what this switch does, it represents a load on the battery. And when I flick this switch, just keep your eyes on where that needle goes. That needle goes down to the weak area. That means the battery is weak. Also, we need to look at cold cranking amps too, to make sure we keep up with that. This is 600, so it's down there. All right. So let's flick this switch and see what happens here. All right. So y'all saw what I saw. When we flicked that switch, that needle went down to weak. So this test would indicate that this battery isn't bad, but it is weak. All right, I'm gonna do it one more time. And we're down in the weak area. This is a 650 cold cranking amps battery, and we're right there at the weak area. Really don't want to see it go down that low. So, but is it weak enough for the car not to start? That's another thing. But this test came back that this battery is weak. It could be weak because we not charged it. Could be weak because it's lost the charge. So we need to just file that in the back of our mind as we proceed. So what I want to do now, I was talking to my father-in-law, just trying to get a history on charging the battery. He did hook it up to the charger, but we're not sure if we let it charge long enough to get a fully charged battery. Yeah, you want to do this test with a fully charged battery as well. Before you condemn the battery, it says it's failed a load test. You want to make sure it's fully charged. So this is where the battery was removed from. I'm going to go ahead and put it back in, and then we'll do some more testing. So one thing my father-in-law had been doing, which is a good step, is to make sure his terminals are clean. So I can see here he's got some sandpaper here where he's gone over these terminals, and what I'm going to do is come along and see if I can try to clean them up too, because if this battery doesn't have a secure connection, that voltage isn't going to get down to the starter. So we're just coming in here with some medium grit sandpaper and just coming in here trying to see if we can wipe stuff down. I see some corrosion and stuff coming out of here, so it's a good thing we're doing this. But is it enough for the vehicle not to start? Now that's another question. So just coming in here with a little sandpaper, hitting it. So we got our terminals cleaned up. Let's go ahead and get this battery mounted in here. First off, last on. We'll start with the positive first. That on there, go to the negative. What I'm gonna do now is get me a socket. Give me some sockets and come back and let's tighten this up, a wrench or something. So I've got a 12 millimeter. I'm just gonna come in and tighten up these terminals right here. Just get them as tight as we can. Then we're gonna do a little wiggle test on it. Yep, that's good. Let's go to the negative. Tight as we can. And back to what I was saying about that tray. See how this tray is moving around a little bit, so we need to keep that in mind as we do this repair, and eventually we're gonna have to come in and figure out how we want to secure this tray. All right, so we have our battery put in now. Let's go and do some tests. So I'm sitting in the vehicle now. The key is in the ignition. So what I'm gonna do now is just see how this vehicle responds when I put it in the on position. Okay, so I see my dash lighting up. See my radio coming on. So that's good. That's telling me this battery is putting out something. But is it enough for the starter to turn over? That's another story. I'm gonna put on some high beams. My lights, and put my high beams on. They come on. Okay. I'm checking to see if the lights would dim at all, anything like that. That's usually evidence of a weak battery if your lights are dim or do anything of the sort. And that wasn't the case here. Those are the high beams. That's what it went off. So now let's go ahead and put our foot on the brake and give this thing a few cranks and see what happens. It started. I wasn't expecting that. So we simply cleaned the terminals up real good, and this vehicle just started. Interesting. All right, but this could be an intermittent problem, so let's just not take this for what it is, but let's just do a few more checks to see what's going on. Vehicle running now, let's just check the alternator. Because the battery came back weak, let's just check the alternator, see if it's putting out. In order for this alternator to charge this battery, I'm looking at a voltage above 13 volts. So let's take a look. Yep, you see it's 14 volts. That means this charging system has detected that this battery is weak. and it's giving it more voltage to charge it. So that's a good test for this charging system. But now let's put this charging system under a load. I'm gonna turn some lights on, turn the radio on to see if the voltage is still gonna be above 12.6. All right, let's do that and we'll be back. Now I've just tried to put a load on this system. I've got the defroster going in the back. I've got windshield wipers on. I've got the high beams on. I want to put a load on the system to see how it behaves with the load. I couldn't get it to come on. We got a load on the system. Let's look at our voltage now. I'm on the negative, I'm on the positive, and you see that charging voltage is 14.7 volts. So that's telling me the alternator is in fact doing its job. And when I look at the alternator, that alternator looks new. You guys can see that. It looks like it's been recently installed. That's a good test. Here you have a final look at the battery. We've cleaned the terminals, we've tightened them up real good, and we've added some petroleum jelly to both the positive and negative terminal, and this should help cut down on any corrosion that may try to set in. So here's a view of what the final battery looks like, all cleaned up. Start it up on the box. Make sure it's still. Did I give you the key? I think I may have taken the keys out of there. Here you go. Alright. Let me fire it up again, just give it a look over. Make sure everything's good. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope this video helped you out today. If it did, do me a huge favor. Hit that like button, leave me a comment, and consider subscribing. We'd love to have you as part of the Daddy DIY family. If you're interested in any of the products we use in today's video, we'll leave some links down below for you. Thanks again. Hope y'all have an awesome day, and thanks for watching.